to all of us, and that we need to dialogue a lot and educate and convince each other that we need to work together to have a more long, middle and long period solutions, not only to react to the problems when the problems came to us. And I think the big challenge for all of us is to transcend the sectorials, as I said, visions. We are helping the community. What communities? Who are helping who? We are all helping each other to try to survive in this planet, that is one planet, to try to solve our contamination and environmental challenges we all have. They all affect us. They affect rich and poor people. They affect because we all drink the same water, and we can drink only bottled water forever, and that's not a good practice too. So what I think is that we aspire that in a place like here in RISE, in a dialogue here, in a panel here, that we separate in communities, stakeholders, and academic leaders. And I think I will design this activity very different, and I have been doing this for more than 20 years, trying to design and facilitate more transsectorial dialogues and place in the same table all the sectors, trying to focus in our problems, not in the institutions. And then if people get conscious, people move to their place and their roles and work in the things they have to do. I think, are you understanding me? That's the thing I'm trying to do my whole life, for more than 30 years, working with communities and knowing. I started working with community-based was my first practice, and I knew from that practice many lessons, good and bad lessons, and old lessons. And one of them was that when I was with them, they didn't realize, they didn't appreciate, I'm generalizing, and that's bad too. But most of them doesn't want to have relationship with the universities. That is an exception. But most of them, they were conscious and aware of the valuable expertise and knowledge they need to transform their practices, to transform their quality of life, to develop their economic and social and environmental issues, and all this knowledge was in the university. I didn't want to relate with them, for what reasons, and vice versa. So when I learned, and then it happened, that happens with government and communities, communities and private sector, and they all need each other to develop the country, develop and solve our problems and our resources problems, convincing each other, hearing, attending, listening each other's and what each one needs to do. And I think we need to horizontalize and put in the same table our expertise, our actives, our needs, and talk face to face, trying to see us more as citizens and as human beings living in the same island, in the same countries, in the same planet. And we need to change the way we talk and the way we analyze and the way we judge each other, especially between institutions. I think it's the way we can try to have more practices and more movement from people that are in different roles in the university and outside the university, to work together with us with all the issues we need to talk about.
There's
I have my, sir. My name is Kaira Fuentes. I'm a community and environmental planner, a proud graduate of La UP, Jerezana. And after the hurricane, many universities in the States, as well as non-profit organizations, wanted to help in Puerto Rico. Many came and started working without actually having the knowledge, the cultural competency to work with the people and the communities. So I do believe that the university in Puerto Rico and its 11 campuses are the stewards, are the responsible to take care of those communities, mostly because that's where our students go and do their practices as social workers, planners, etc. So moving forward, because we know that many disasters are to come, that's sad, but with climate change, that's the reality. How the university can be that steward, that first stop when the University of Minnesota wants to go and help, like how they contact the university, how they are then managed to work with the communities in need, instead of going to help other non-profit organizations that already arrived just because of the disaster and do not have the knowledge of the culture and the people. So moving forward, how the university perceive themselves as that hub.
Can I address that? All right, so I think, as you said, especially after the hurricane, there was virtually, a substantial group of academic institutions, nonprofits, et cetera, that came in and wanted to help. And that was on the diaspora, the people Puerto Rican descent that were living in the States and elsewhere were virtually lifesavers, right? Because we saw both government at all levels basically failed us. And during the plenary, when somebody said, so are you part of the, if you represent a group that is part of the recovery or response, I can't remember. Yeah, so we did raise our hand. The community groups responded initially. And I think just, well, basically in direct response to what you're commenting, I think people in organizations that come in need to know what has already been done, right? Work from a building block of what has been studied at the universities, what has been implemented at the community level, etc. And I'll give you an example. We are currently in the midst of what is known as the Integrated Resource Plan for the Puerto Rico electric system. And had all kinds of proposals about what to do to transform the electric system. That's one of the main issues, of course. It's what failed so badly. And what we're seeing is actually even not just not knowing what's been done before, but actually proposing things that are basically in service of economic interests in the States, like a lot of methane gas or liquefied natural gas terminals. This is incredible. The Siemens Industry, which is the consultant for the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority in this case, is proposing the construction of 3 marine LNG terminals and 1 land-based terminal, and a whole slew of new combined cycle plants to burn that gas. And that is not something that you consider the direction that we were going in. And that's really problematic because basically it perpetuates the fossil centralized station generation in Puerto Rico as opposed to adopting what has been done for over a decade now in Puerto Rico, but talking about implementation of distributed energy, renewable energy resources. So yeah, taking into account what's been done. And one word of sort of, I don't know, those of you who have any impact on federal spending, for example, we need to really be careful at this critical juncture that resources, funds, taxpayer money does not go into rebuilding what we had prior to the hurricane, such as these transmission systems generating power in the south and going across the mountain range and into the big demand energy center in the north. Taxpayer funds should not be invested in that, but yet that is the plan. So that's a really big concern. And I want to mention also one fact about why we need this transformation so badly in Puerto Rico. So this year we had the storm Dorian that later became a hurricane and impacted some of the southeastern states. And prior to that storm, in mostly Salinas where I live, and Guayama, we had a drought going on and water rationing related in part to the fact that the Aguirre Power Complex and the AES coal burning power plant extract water from the South Coast aquifer. And contrary to our local law, the water law in Puerto Rico, they're taking priority over human use. So 2 to 3 days a week, we were without water in Salinas and Guayama, just because we have this centralized hospital system.
Which is also a social justice problem. Well, we have 10 minutes more.
I have a comment, but
okay.
I mean, maybe I'll hear your question first because in case it relates, but I have it either way. So, really, really quick, back to the point about what you do, it is a logistical issue. So by analogy, I think with all the questions, not just how to receive outside people, but with how to plan things, like we were having discussions about, maybe for next cycle, we should have a process where every local school has an alma center, a storage area for certain supplies we know will need to get there. And so, by analogy, maybe every university needs to have an action plan about what it might do. And I guess I could defer to Luisa. Do you have any quick thing to say about this? I mean, do you have any quick? But I think we have to have a pre-plan in place, okay, before it really comes. The other thing I'll say, touching on what Ruth said about public money, we just came from the Sigma Xi Science Conference in Madison, Wisconsin, and one of the keynote speakers, her name is Ariana Sutton Greer from the University of Maryland, and she gave one of the keynote speeches about like wetland and also forestry protection. And her ultimate message though was, we shouldn't think of ourselves as only engineers and scientists doing our research. We have to be politically active. So I'd like to say, for those students that want to help us from the outside, like it or not, they have more political power than we do in Washington. They should all know the number of the Capitol switchboard. They should all know the numbers of the names and numbers of their individual representatives, and they should be calling the representatives and insisting upon a better political action about the whole issue about PROMESA. And I'll just say one little thing. There's a bill in the House right now which is sponsored by Grijalva. And if I can venture out a little bit, when the visiting delegation came to Puerto Rico in March, Marla and Cecilia and other members of Protestamos and APRUM, which is our faculty association, organized a very important meeting with that delegation. And in that delegation, heard directly about what was the plight of the university system, which was not being communicated, as far as I know, by any of the official administrative channels. That had a big impact. Right now in that bill, one of the points is to restore the funding for the university system. So it's that kind of thing where if the students from abroad learn about the basic issues in Puerto Rico, and maybe they can't all physically come to Puerto Rico, I think they can become educated political activists on this issue, which is very, 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 very important. And I'm not saying this personally, that's what was said at the Sigma Xi conference. This is the practical way that we have to think about these things. It's not just about on the ground distributing water filters. That was very important, but it's about a bigger picture of thinking in advance of the problem coming the next time.
So my name's Rebecca de Jesus Crespo. I'm a professor at LSU, but I'm also a graduate of the University of Puerto Rico system. I have students that I want to give the opportunity to get trained and get the cultural awareness and to conduct research outside of the disaster response situation, but like right now, maybe start engaging more with communities. And one issue that I confront often is that when I want to design projects and I go to San Juan or to Mayagüez to look for partners, I always get directed to the same communities because those are the ones that are organized. And I always feel very bad because I know they're overburdened with so many people that want to train their students by going. Caño Martín Peña is one that comes to mind. But how do we foster more leaderships in communities? Because those that are organized are the ones that are receiving all these students and training them, but it's too much of them who are already burdened with so many things. So I just wanted to get your impressions on that.
I think that always the people think about San Juan, G8, Cantera, but you have to look to the west of the island that we exist at the west of the island, and the Institute for Community. Yes, but the people, the south also, but most of the people go to the east or to the north. And
The East is a very large place.
but many people, you know, Maria, that many people first go to the University of Puerto Rico, and then to the north of the island, and then to Macau or that area, and then at the end they think about the west of the island, and that's why many people don't realize that more than 25 communities in Puerto Rico not being so organized, but we work with them, and the students learn how to learn from the community and the experience that the people has there, and the way they are dealing with the issues and the challenges, and we are open to have opportunity to work together between Humacao, Rio Piedras, Medical Science Department, all together. I think that the challenge at the University of Puerto Rico is that we all together get in touch, have a plan, and have the opportunity to share with other universities at the state.
That is probably,
I would like to
that is
add,
why probably this conference is so important, because what we are trying to create is a network of collaborators. So when you want to create a project with communities in Puerto Rico, there's a lot of people that work with communities, different communities. There are thousands. The problem is that some organizations doesn't know what other organizations do. And I can tell that some time ago, the institute that, well, the institute that we have in Mayagüez trying to spread the same philosophy, to expand the same philosophy to the 11 campuses, and you know it started, the movement started, but then administration changed again. You know. So that's part of the problems of the barriers that we have to address.
I would like to add another comment to what Professor was telling. I totally agree with Chris that UPR needs to be recognized as an essential service by the government of Puerto Rico. So in order to do that, I think another thing that I have a research project funded by NASA, and we were in a researcher meeting, and something that they were highlighting, even from NASA, is that we need to improve communication strategies to let the people know how many things we are doing in Puerto Rico because of the University of Puerto Rico. There are thousands of initiatives, as many of others have said before, so we have been doing a lot of things, but we are one of the worst institutions in terms of communicating what we are doing. Answering your question, Rebecca, that's something that we have found that is very, very, very difficult. Beyond that, if you're also working not only with the University of Puerto Rico, that will be easier, but if you are trying to allocate funds to the communities, if the community doesn't have a little level of organization, the minimum requirement, it will be very difficult for them in order to receive funds to our resources, financial resources, to deal with their problems or the potential solutions, right? They have the knowledge, they have capacity, they have alliances, but they need a minimum level of organization. That's a reality, right? If you want to build a long-term solution, because if not, it will be as many thousands of organizations that entered right after the hurricanes, and they only came for 3 months in Puerto Rico and received a lot of funds, as the one from the chef Jose Andres or Andres, I don't know what. He won millions of dollars from FEMA, cooking or doing food for thousands of people. Yeah, right. But we have other communities that are still doing that for free. And they didn't receive any money, and they didn't receive an award or recognition from the government or anything, right? So I think that the level of organization is a big obstacle, and something that we can do, for example, is to help them to organize, right? Because they have the capacity, they have the knowledge, they have the local knowledge, they have everything, they have the resources in terms of human resources, but they still lack of some level of organization. Maybe because they don't talk each other, I don't know. But some minimum things like that are very difficult to overcome.
Yeah. Only add that private universities, public universities, have a lot of information of NGOs and organizations that work with different type of community in different areas and things. Foundations, there are a lot of foundations in Puerto Rico, Fondos Unidos, United Ways, Fundación Ángel Ramos, Fundación Carvajal. There are a lot of foundations that work with dozens and dozens of organizations and communities that work with health, that work with economic development, that work with environmental situations, families, youth, education, many areas. So you need to look in the, you can look in the internet and search for foundations in Puerto Rico that works with NGOs, and they organize them in themes like the areas that you are looking for, so you can disperse, or you can look for the areas and work. The students and the universities want to help or to do research or to do services and to do a practice. So you don't have to go only to the University of Puerto Rico and if you go there, you can go to the science department, the psychology department, the planification department, and they all have a lot of communities and organizations they are working with. There are thousands of organizations in Puerto Rico that are working along the island in different areas you can look for, but there are one or two or three that are always the ones that people mention, and that's why they go always there. In Puerto Rico, they always go to Mariana or to Peces. But and there are 50, 60 organizations working in different areas, so you can look up.
I have to apologize, the time's run out. So thank you very much for your attention and the comments. Apparently, the lunch for us is at the bottom, so now we can go and have some lunch. Thank you very much.
Hey, Marcelo, mucho gusto. ¿Todo bien? Sí, por Twitter. Es el tuitero mayor. Te veo ahí en el bolo. También
Bueno, lo queremos entrar todo.
Fernando Casillas, profesional.